Delta Airlines Flight 1732 took off from San Francisco, bound for New York shortly after 11 p.m. First class, isolated from the hustle and bustle of economy by a navy blue curtain, emanated that characteristic atmosphere of exclusivity. Soft lights illuminated the environment while the aroma of premium coffee and freshly prepared gourmet meals filled the air-conditioned space. The only persistent sound was the constant hum of the engines, creating a mechanical symphony that lulled the privileged passengers after a long day. Stephen Curry, star of the Golden State Warriors, settled into seat 3A next to the window. He wore a simple gray t-shirt, comfortable athletic pants, and a pair of Under Armour sneakers from his own line. The game against the Knicks had been intense, 109-98, with a hard-fought victory away from home. His muscles still ached, but the satisfaction of victory compensated for the physical fatigue. I didn't see. You press the subscribe button on our channel. It will only take you a second, and leave your opinion in the comments. Over his t-shirt rested a silver crucifix, hanging from a delicate chain. It wasn't ostentatious or flashy, just meaningful. A gift from his mother when he turned 16. That symbol accompanied him in practically all matches and important moments. For Curry, it represented more than religiosity. It was a connection to his childhood, Sunday mornings at church, to family values, and to the faith he had always publicly declared to be his foundation. While reviewing the game statistics on his tablet, a female figure approached down the central aisle. Jessica Winters had worked at Delta for 25 years. At 47, she knew every procedure, every protocol, every type of passenger she might encounter. A veteran flight attendant, she was usually assigned to first class on transcontinental routes due to her efficiency and discretion. Brown hair impeccably tied in a bun, perfectly pressed blue uniform, professional smile automatically activated when approaching each passenger. "Good evening. Would you like a drink before takeoff?" she asked, approaching Curry. "Just water, please," he replied with a polite smile, lowering his tablet. It was at that moment that Jessica's gaze fixed momentarily on the crucifix. Something in her expression changed, almost imperceptible, but present. A slight contraction at the corner of her lips, a subtle stiffening of her posture. She returned seconds later with a glass of mineral water and ice. "Here you are," she said, placing the glass delicately on the armrest. Then, leaning slightly and reducing her voice to a more intimate tone, she added, "You know, people in your position usually keep religious symbols more discreet. Perhaps it would be better to keep that under your shirt during the flight." The comment, although whispered, was audible to nearby passengers. A marketing executive in seat 3B and the recognizable travel influencer in 2A, who discreetly adjusted the angle of her smartphone. Curry, genuinely surprised, instinctively touched the crucifix. "Excuse me?" he responded, keeping his voice calm. "This necklace has personal meaning to me. I don't see any reason to hide it." Jessica maintained her professional smile, but her eyes hardened. "I understand, sir. But we have policies about maintaining a neutral environment in first class. Some passengers might feel uncomfortable." "Company policy?" Curry frowned, confused. "I've never heard of that on any flight I've taken." "Celebrities have a responsibility not to impose their beliefs on others," she insisted, the professionalism in her voice mixing with a growing rigidity. The subtle movement of smartphones around capturing the moment did not go unnoticed. Curry maintained the composure that characterized him both on and off the court. "With all due respect," he replied, voice firm but controlled, "I'm not imposing anything on anyone. This symbol represents my faith, something I've never hidden and don't intend to start now." Jessica straightened her posture, lips compressed into a thin line. "Privileged athletes always think they're above the rules," she commented coldly, before moving away to attend to other passengers. Curry took a deep breath, uncomfortable with the unexpected confrontation. He noticed the curious glances from other passengers, the discreet movement of cell phone cameras being quickly lowered when they met his gaze. He took his own phone and typed a quick message to Aisha, his wife. "Strange situation on the plane. I'll tell you when I arrive. Love you." Little did he imagine that those brief 47 seconds of interaction were about to transform into something much bigger than a passing discomfort on a night flight. The New York sun filtered through the hotel curtains when Curry awoke. He automatically extended his arm to the phone on the nightstand, a morning ritual, to check messages from family before anything else. Frowning at the bright screen, he noticed something unusual. 47 unread WhatsApp messages, 124 Twitter notifications, and countless alerts from other platforms. The last time he had seen numbers like this was after breaking the NBA three-point record. "What the hell?" he muttered, sitting up in bed. He slid his finger across the screen, finding dozens of messages from teammates, friends, and family asking about a video. The first message from his agent was direct. "A video of you on the plane yesterday is circulating. Call me immediately." In less than 5 minutes, Curry was watching the footage taken by influencer or Travel with Jen. 47 seconds perfectly capturing the discomfort of the interaction with the flight attendant. The original TikTok post had already accumulated 3.4 million views, shared thousands of times on Twitter and Instagram. The hashtag #RespectCurry occupied the first place in trending topics. Watch how Stephen Curry 30 maintains class when attacked for his faith in the middle of a Delta flight. This is what I call true strength of character. "Respect Curry," said the caption. Comments multiplied every second. "Who does this flight attendant think she is to speak like that to Stephen Curry? Blatant religious discrimination. Delta needs to answer for this. His calmness. Legendary. I would have lost my patience right away." Meanwhile, at IFE, Delta Airlines headquarters in Atlanta, lights had turned on long before business hours. In the main conference room, executives with pronounced dark circles stared at graphs and social media metrics on a projection screen. Wendy Parker, communications director, pointed to an ascending red line that seemed almost vertical. "Negative mentions of the company have increased 4,000% in the last 6 hours. We're being massacred on all platforms," she explained, her voice tense. "We need an official response immediately." The legal director intervened. "We have to be careful. There are legal implications about religious discrimination. The employee created a potentially vulnerable situation for us." In Queens, New York, Jessica Winter's alarm sounded punctually at 6:15, as on all her days off. Normally, she would enjoy reading the newspaper with a cup of coffee before a walk in the park near her apartment. But there was nothing normal about that morning. Her phone wouldn't stop vibrating with notifications. Emails, text messages, Instagram and Facebook alerts, a digital flood that seemed endless. The first message she opened was from a fellow flight attendant. "Jess, are you okay? They're talking about you everywhere. The video with Curry has gone viral." "What video?" she murmured, her stomach contracting into a knot of anxiety. 3 minutes later, Jessica was horrified watching her own image on the screen, her face clearly recognizable as she suggested Stephen Curry hide his crucifix. The captured audio was surprisingly clear. Her hands trembled as she checked social media. Her LinkedIn profile, previously a discreet professional page, was flooded with negative comments. Strangers had found her personal Instagram, leaving messages ranging from polite criticism to aggressive insults. Then her phone rang. The caller ID showed Delta Human Resources. "Miss Winters," the formal voice on the other end announced, "we are requesting your temporary removal from flight duties while we conduct an investigation into the incident reported on social media. Please do not speak to the press." As Jessica collapsed in her armchair across town, Curry was keeping his commitment to a youth basketball clinic in the Bronx. Dozens of children crowded around him on the court, but they weren't alone. An unusual number of reporters waited on the sidelines. "Stephen," one of them shouted when Curry paused for water. "What's your response to the flight attendant who criticized your crucifix?" Curry briefly looked at the group of eager children, and then at the reporters. "I'm here for these kids today," he responded firmly. "About yesterday, I just believe that everyone deserves respect for who they are and what they believe." Back at the hotel, his agent waited with a folder full of offers. "Good morning, America. Today's show, Ellen. They all want you to talk about the incident," he explained. "And 3 Christian brands have already sent partnership proposals. This could turn into something lucrative." Curry took the folder and closed it without looking at the contents. "I'm not interested," he stated. "This is getting out of proportion. She made a mistake, but she doesn't deserve to have her life destroyed because of it." The week was unfolding slowly for Jessica Winters. Sitting at her breakfast table, her mind wandered between unread messages and emails accumulating in her inbox. The morning light filtered through the palm window, but the warmth of the sun couldn't dissolve the shadow of stress that accompanied her. It was a new day, but the feeling of oppression continued. Jessica looked in the mirror, observing the traces of worry on her face. Her eyes, normally vibrant, now seemed tired and lifeless. The weight of negative notoriety had hit her like a punch to the stomach, and the online comments continued to echo in her mind. On her table, the phone vibrated again with a new notification. It was her younger sister, Emily, trying to get in touch. Jessica's heart tightened. "I can't do this," she thought, but curiosity won. She answered. "Jessie, are you okay?" her sister asked, concern evident in her voice. "I saw the video. What happened?" Jessica took a deep breath, trying to organize her thoughts. "It was a mistake, a moment of weakness. I shouldn't have spoken that way, but I don't know. My past influenced my reaction." "You know that's not how things should work, right? You can't judge others based on your own experiences," Emily replied softly. "That's what the church always did to you." Jessica hesitated. Memories of her childhood, of being ostracized for questioning rigid dogmas, flooded her mind. The resentment she had accumulated over the years seemed to finally find a target. "I didn't want this to happen. I just wanted people to respect my point of view." "But you didn't respect his," Emily said, her voice firm. "Maybe you need to reflect on that." Uncomfortable with the new perspective, Jessica hung up. The conversation left her even more distressed. She sat in silence, looking at the "Do Not Disturb" signs on her apartment door. She decided she needed to go out, but didn't know where. Meanwhile, another day began for Stephen Curry. The team was in Chicago for the next game. During breakfast, he found himself surrounded by reporters. Questions about the plane incident were inevitable. "Stephen, did you feel attacked by the flight attendant? What would you say to her now?" asked a reporter. Curry took a deep breath, remembering the letter he had received from Jessica. "I prefer not to comment much on this. What happened was a misunderstanding. We're all learning, and the most important thing is that we should strive to respect each other." Coach Steve Kerr, noticing Curry's emotional strain, pulled him into a private conversation after breakfast. "Look, Stephen, sometimes people put us in difficult situations, but this is an opportunity to show how you handle adversity, on and off the court." "I know, but I don't want this to turn into a spectacle. I don't want her life to be ruined because of this," Curry replied, frustration evident in his voice. "Sometimes things get out of control, but you have the power to shape the narrative," Kerr suggested. "Consider how you can use this to educate and inspire." Back in Queens, Jessica found herself trapped in her own mind. With each notification, the weight of judgment seemed to increase. Determined not to let herself be overcome, she decided to go to the park to breathe some fresh air. Walking among the trees, she tried to calm down. Nature had always been her refuge, and the sound of leaves in the wind brought a little peace. While walking, a close friend, Marcus, called. He was another flight attendant whom Jessica trusted, someone who always supported her. "Jess, I saw what happened. Are you okay?" "I'm trying," she said, trying to hide the fragility in her voice. "But all of this is consuming me." "You need to be honest with yourself. It's not just about the video. What do you really think about what you said?" Marcus questioned. She stopped, looking at the blue sky above. "I don't know. I just wanted people to understand that I feel religion has its limitations, but I shouldn't have attacked someone because of it. Recognizing that is the first step. But you can't carry this guilt alone. We can find a way to turn this into something positive," Marcus offered, the empathy in his voice almost palpable. Before she could respond, a notification on her phone caught her attention. It was a message from Curry, sent through a common contact in the hotel industry. "I'm willing to talk. Can we meet to discuss this? I believe we can learn from each other." Jessica's heart raced. Staring at the phone screen, she realized she was about to have the conversation that could change her life and perspective forever. The idea of meeting Stephen Curry, the man she had criticized, brought a mixture of anxiety and hope. Maybe this is a path to redemption, she thought, as she prepared to respond. Jessica's narrative was about to unexpectedly intertwine with that of the NBA star, and the possibility of personal growth began to take shape on the horizon. 2 weeks after the incident on the flight, Jessica Winters was sitting in a discreet cafe in San Francisco's financial district. The aroma of fresh coffee and the soft sound of the espresso machine created a welcoming environment, but she was far from feeling comfortable. Her mind was in turmoil, and nervousness made her incessantly fidget with her fingers around the cup. Stephen Curry's message still resonated in her head. He was willing to meet and discuss the incident. What did she expect to happen? How could she approach a man who had become the center of such a public controversy? Jessica looked out the window, watching people pass by hurriedly, each with their own stories, their own struggles. And now, she was just one of them, marked by a mistake. When the clock struck 10:30, Jessica took a deep breath and stood up, determined not to let fear dominate her. She headed to the meeting place, a small Italian restaurant where Curry had suggested they meet. Upon entering, the atmosphere was welcoming, with well-arranged tables and soft light. But her stomach was in knots. Stephen Curry was already there, seated at a table in the back, with a calm look, wearing a t-shirt and jeans. He waved when he saw her, and Jessica felt a mix of nervousness and relief. As she approached, Curry stood and greeted her with a genuine smile. "Thank you for coming," he said, pulling out a chair for her. "I hope you didn't feel pressured to come." No, I needed to. Actually, I don't even know where to start," replied Jessica, her voice trembling. "Let's start from the beginning then," he suggested. What were you feeling at that moment? What led you to make that comment? Jessica hesitated, considering her words. The truth is that I have a complicated relationship with religion. I grew up in an environment where I was always judged for my beliefs, and that made me very cynical. When I saw the crucifix, something inside me just reacted. Curry listened attentively, his encouraging gaze making her feel comfortable to continue. But that doesn't justify what I said. I shouldn't have projected my insecurities onto you. And honestly, I'm sorry for how it all unfolded. I made mistakes too, said Curry. As you've seen, things can quickly get out of control, especially in such a connected world. But I really appreciate your honesty. It shows that you're willing to grow. Jessica smiled slightly, feeling a wave of relief. I just hope people can understand that, behind a public image, we're all human, and we all make mistakes. Exactly, agreed Curry. And that's why conversations like this are so important. It may be easy for people to see only what's on the surface, but the truth is that we all have our own struggles. The waiter brought 2 cups of fresh coffee, interspersing the conversation with a moment of pause. Curry took a sip and continued. I don't want this to define you. You have an incredible career as a flight attendant. And although what happened was bad, you can use this as an opportunity to promote understanding and acceptance. Jessica reflected for a moment. You're right. I want to turn this into something positive. I'm thinking of working with Delta to develop a program about diversity and respect, maybe even conducting workshops for flight attendants on how to deal with religious and cultural differences. That's an incredible idea, exclaimed Curry, enthusiastic. If you need help, I'm here. I can even help promote the initiative. This can make a big difference. The rest of the conversation flowed naturally, with both sharing experiences about their journeys and challenges. Curry talked about his personal growth, the pressure of fame, and the responsibility he felt as a role model. Jessica, in turn, detailed her struggles with acceptance and how the social media movement forced her to confront her own beliefs. The conversation became lighter when Curry shared some funny stories about life in the NBA, making Jessica laugh and relax even more. Time flew, and when they looked at the clock, they realized they had spent almost 2 hours together. Before they said goodbye, Curry made a proposal. Let's do this again, not just to discuss what happened, but to support each other as we both try to make a difference in our areas. Jessica nodded, feeling grateful for that unexpected connection. I'd love to. Thank you for being so understanding. This means a lot to me. As they left the restaurant, Curry looked at Jessica and said, Remember, we all learn from our mistakes. What's important is what we do afterward. As they walked in opposite directions, Jessica felt a new hope. The weight of judgment began to dissipate, replaced by the determination to transform her experience into a catalyst for change. The idea that a simple meeting could result in something so significant inspired her. The following week brought a new light for Jessica. She began to work on her project with Delta, and the initial response was positive. Talking about her experiences and learning to listen to others made her realize that, even in a world full of differences, it was possible to find common ground. And, as the sun set over the city, Jessica looked at the horizon, knowing that the journey was still just beginning, but that now there was a clear path before her. Life had taught her a valuable lesson. We all have the power to change our narratives, and through empathy and understanding, we can truly make a difference in the world around us.